Hello and welcome to Ecumenical Matters, the Father Ted podcast. I'm your host, James McAnespy. So this is the YouTube version of the podcast. I've taken out some of the material that dates the podcast and tried to make it more timeless. So please like and subscribe. Thanks and bless you.
That would be an ecumenical matter!
Hello and welcome to Ecumenical Matters, the Father Ted podcast. I'm here with Donny Kingston, a young and up-and-coming stand-up comedian. So how are you doing today, Donny?
I'm very well. It's nice to be here. Should I do my plug now, as I've seen from everyone else? I'm currently running the Jesters Comedy Club, which will be relaunching as the Quartz Fools in Lisbon in Hague's Bar. It's the last Friday of every month. And that's as professional as I'm going to be for the rest of the podcast.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. And we're doing a bit of another different sort of re-record, so we're actually in the Parlour Bar in Belfast today, just to sort of mix things up a wee bit and see how things go. So we'll try that and see if it...
James was way too comfortable in his previous setup. We need to stress him out a little bit from somewhere else.
Moving to London and doing it in a recording studio, I can't have that. That's just
too easy. It can't be something you love if it loves you back.
Exactly. You have to really suffer for everything. And we're discussing Season 2, Episode 4, The Old Grey Whistle Theft. Now, we have been discussing the episode titles, and for the first time, actually, this is actually a title that describes what happened in the episode.
Yeah. I've thought that all the previous titles was, if you'd seen the episode, if someone told you the title, it would remind you immediately. It was for people that had watched it, it was not for people coming to it. And this title is very different. It's something that gives you an idea before it's happened.
So you think the other titles were like, so if I told you that Good Luck Father Ted, you know which episode that is?
Yes, but if I hadn't seen it, it would mean nothing to me.
Okay.
It was for people. It was for their current audience, not for their new audience.
Well, this one, the title Old Grey Whistle Theft is obviously on the Old Grey Whistle Test, which was a BBC TV show in the 70s and 80s where they just played live music. So a band would come on and just play like their hit, just play it live. Now you can still see these on BBC 4 and stuff. There's still archive footage of it. There doesn't seem to be presenters or anything. And from what I can gather, it's just like you see the studio and the band plays. There's no audience or anything, and there's footage of U2 playing one of their early hits, and there's Jimi Hendrix. Well, not Jimi Hendrix, but like that sort of era.
In a room, they've got no audience, and
it's just the band playing their instruments. That's all it is. And it's very, very low key. But for a lot of these bands, it might be the only footage that actually exists of them.
Okay, so it would have been a platform for them to get this is what I've done for the BBC.
Well, exactly.
Without it costing the BBC a massive amount to pay for a presenter.
Well, and then the other thing is the BBC. They, instead of paying royalties to play music on the radio stations, they would just use whatever they'd use to record their band. So instead of using YouTube recorded track, they would just use the...
So the BBC would go and get them while they're not famous, and then will not have to pay for it when they are.
Exactly. But so the Old Grey Whistle Theft, which involves, as the title explains, a theft of an old grey whistle. And it's, for me, I just watched it there a couple of hours ago. I didn't think it would be a top 5 contender, but I'm very much backing the...
I hadn't seen this episode for a very long time, like I mentioned before, and a lot of it, I got a lot more of the jokes this time, and it was a lot more entertaining, and there's a lot more moments in it than a lot of other episodes where they have that one moment. There's so many through this, with so many characters. Normally each episode will give one character their shining moment in the light.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. The fact that they had so many different standout moments that you could just isolate and play in a clip. Like it could just be a YouTube clip on its own. Like it happened 7 or 8 times. Mrs. Doyle, waving up, or anything with Father Damo, or Jack on the picnic table.
Yeah.
Like there's so many. I mean, I write down the time codes for clips that I want to use later on, and I've
spoiled for choice.
Most of the episode, like there's 1 minute, 2:27, 3:11, 4:17, 5:03.
Yeah.
Like these are all moments of
a very similar issue when I was taking my notes of something I wanted to talk about. I filled almost an entire page worth with the smallest writing I can read.
Nice.
A couple of nights ago I did a gig and I filled this tiny box of things I wanted to talk about, but this episode had so much to offer. It was really good.
It is. It's absolutely brilliant. So we'll go right into it then. So the first thing that happens as we open is that they're actually gossiping away.
Something I thought priests did, and my mother said they didn't.
Well, they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to gossip about what happens in the confessional. The whole point of the confessional is the one place where you can go and absolve yourself of your guilt or what you feel your sins are, in a safe space where what you say will never be repeated. And that's the ideal. And it has, it's come up numerous times in over history in the legal systems and stuff, because should this testimony of a confessional be allowed to be
if
used
he says
in court?
he's going to kill someone, should the priest tell someone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, is the answer.
Well, I suppose that goes to the very depth of your spirituality, I suppose.
Yes, it's shallow.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I don't know, to be honest. It's bad that one person, as in the parish priest, has all this information.
It's an awful decision for him to make. I don't envy that.
Well, for him to have all the town's, the secrets and lies in his own head.
But on the
so
plus side, he gets the stories that Father Ted and Dougal are talking about. Ones he can laugh about.
Yeah, well, so you have legal privilege and you have doctor-patient confidentiality and stuff. So these concepts are not entirely isolated to the priesthood, but it does elevate the priesthood to that stature. So they have, it does put them on that pedestal then.
Yeah.
And whether or not you think the church should have that sort of pedestal.
That's something. When I was much younger, my mum would always go to church and she confessed, but I didn't. I had no interest in.
Have you ever been to a confession?
I've been with my mum and she did a confession, but I never did one myself. No.
Well, the first confession is one of the sacraments, so you're supposed to do that when you're about 7. Well, I did, like when my primary school did. So basically, you go in and you go to the box and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry for kicking Jenny in the shins. Please forgive me." And he'd give you like a penance of like 2 Our Fathers and 10 Hail Marys, and then you'd be on your way, and then suddenly you were absolved of everything.
That's the part I really didn't like, when my mum said you should do this, or I recommend you do this, because she never forced me into any of it. I was convinced. I didn't see those as people who of God. I saw them as people I was telling my secrets to, who in turn would tell other people, because that's what I would do. and Father Ted confirmed that for me.
Well, it's good to know the show is helping bring people to the faith. But I've never went as an adult. In fact, I think I only went to confession twice. So once as I said, my first time, and then a second time about 9 months later. And even the fact that when you go back, you're supposed to say, well, the first time you go, this is my first confession, and then when you go back, you're supposed to say, it's been 9 months since my last confession, and immediately you already feel bad about the fact that it's so long since your last one. So if I go back now and say it's been 21 years since my last confession,
if you're live, would they know? If you're live,
well, that's what the purpose of going there, to absolve yourself of your sins. Your first confession, the first thing you actually confess is, oh, by the way, I lied to you about when my last confession was. Can you give me a quick Hail Mary for that, just so we can get that off my chest? But I don't know, if you went back and you said it's 21 years, they'd probably have to, we were chatting with my housemate last night, they'd probably have to just jump out the confessional door and say, right, everyone's cancelled, I've got a serious one here. Because they're probably inundated with Ned Flanders types who just come and snap it over or something.
I left the cat outside. But would you go to confession when you've done something really bad? Or when you just, that time you went with the 9-month gap, was it just because you did something really bad?
No,
you just felt the need?
I can't actually remember what inspired me to go back. I think it was just sort of, somebody mentioned it and I thought, oh yeah, I should have better. I was like, what could you have done as an 8-year-old and be that terrible? I think it was that point, it was just to get into the idea of,
you've got to tell people the bad things.
But yeah, it would be interesting to hear what the worst things are in a confessional. Like one
interesting and terrifying at the same time. But let's hear what Father Ted in his confession.
Well, he heard about all the babysitting and all the affairs going on. It turns out it was Mr. Benson.
Yes,
who was the victim of the whistle theft. So that was nice. That came around nice, little circle.
When I watched a few episodes of Father Ted while getting ready for this, it sort of just went on a binge, as you do.
Yeah.
But I realised that even the smallest of conversations or utters are important to the whole storyline. Not key, but they are involved in some way, which is it makes it again something I didn't notice when I was younger. but as an adult, I've noticed, wow, this is a really nice rounded off story. Nothing was pointless.
Yeah, they do, it's really, really tight. Like, they do, every thread is tightening the plot a little bit more, like, and it's, you know, everything comes in so rounded. Like, they did the last week's episode, which haven't actually, the ones that were recorded last week, which haven't released yet. Mrs. Doyle's story felt a bit unfinished. I will say that, but for the most part, I mean, every beat is just so tight and so, you know, as everything comes around full circle. And it does help that, you know, Mr. Benson comes to Father's Head with the specific purpose of getting him to divulge if anyone has confessed in the confessional.
And that is a wonderful moment later on in the episode.
And then Dougal just spills the beans. It's like, so, here the babysitter's pregnant.
Dougal and Damo, I think in this episode more than any other, they take the junior priest so literally, as in Hugh asked a child, what's a junior priest? It's a priest that's a child, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that is the entire episode. It is in every other episode, but they show as much as possible in this episode.
Yes, they do. I mean, well, the junior priest, as you say, the actual title is a Catholic curate. So you got the parish priest to be Ted, and the Catholic curate, and there is a title for the older sort of retired priest. I can't remember what it is.
Alcoholic.
For Jack in particular, you know, the alcoholic buffoon. But yeah, so Father Damo, let's chat about him. He's played by Joe Rooney, and again played to an absolute T.
Yes.
Absolutely perfect. I mean, he just got across that sort of rebellious sort of, you know, slick back hair with a little bit of highlighting.
Yeah,
perfect mid-90s.
It felt like he had a 14-year-old he was taking care of for a short amount of time and wanted to prove a point to him and show him all the things he was doing to the absolute extreme.
Yeah.
It was,
and the way Dougal looked up to him, I mean, it was so perfectly in character that Dougal would see this guy. He was like, oh my god, he's so cool, and everything he says, Dougal's totally on board with. Yeah. And I'm sure you remember as a kid, when I certainly do, you know, when you're 7 or 8 or something, and there's just the older guy.
He doesn't have to be 2 years old, he just has to be a couple of months older, and he is God.
Yeah, exactly. And he would lead you around, and he lead you astray.
I don't know about you, but when you're a bad influence, he would show you all these new things, i.e., oh, you know, this is what happens when you're not at school and you skip school together, and it just blows your mind. You're just like, oh my god, I didn't know there was this many hours in the day. Going back to the start of the episode, you mentioned Mrs. Doyle, and I felt incredibly bad for Mrs. Doyle throughout this entire episode. All I saw was that Stockholm syndrome taken to the worst case of Stockholm syndrome. She is there to serve them and loves it, but can't quite do it right.
No, I was just thinking that it's like she is so eager and so determined to be the best possible housekeeper, but she's just totally awful at it. I mean, she has these moments where, you know, her energy is completely wasted or misplaced because she'll stay up all night for 3 years.
No one will know until.
But she just forgets that one of the specific request was not to make egg sandwiches, and she made 2 bags worth of egg sandwiches.
The first bags for life I think I ever saw.
Yeah,
that's what I thought when I saw them. Those are bags for life before bags for life existed.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah, because you would have thought like she would have a basket or something, like, but that was a proper bag for life. That's not one that's gonna like
you could
tear up after a few months.
No,
that's gonna. It's probably still intact. She's probably still using it to this day. Like. But she probably keeps the entire southwest of Ireland bakery industry in
good stead.
Yeah, exactly, because she just makes all these sandwiches. Nobody has any intention of eating that many sandwiches.
I think when Mrs. Doyle retired in this fictional world, all those bakers just went, oh my goodness.
I just want
I think it's it for us, guys. Our company's been open for the past 50 years solely off this one woman.
Yeah. we better get Tesco on the phone again. Looks like we're gonna have to move in, lads. Yeah, so Dougal's all prepped up for this picnic as well. He's really excited and he loves the egg sandwiches, but then he just remembers, oh, I can't actually, I have to go somewhere. And my immediate thought was, what would Dougal have to do? And then, of course, as soon as the bell goes, the doorbell, and Father Damo's sitting there, he's like, oh, of course, he's been a play date, if you want to call it that.
Run out like a child, that's
It was
the shove past. It's something you couldn't get. I couldn't do it. And you being an actor, getting into the mind of a child that is rambunctious, doesn't care about anything else.
Yeah, it's the face of him when he actually barges past Ted with the football in tow, with his tongue out and just a smile of glee. It's like, oh yes, he's here. He's like a little dog just when the owner comes home. He's just and he doesn't even realise Ted's there. If he does, he's just straight out the bathroom like. And they go out and play football, and you can see at the end.
Yes.
They've actually some nifty tekkers.
Yeah, so they've got some moves. And
yeah, exactly.
I have to say, Damo's incredibly accurate when it comes to hitting. In the end credits, he hits Dougal with the ball with some distance, and I thought that was incredibly accurate for an end credit scene.
Yeah,
he must dabble in his own free time.
But he's probably got nothing else to do in his own parish. Him and his Frosty, his Catholic curate, Frosty.
Father Frost.
Sorry, Father Frost, of course. They are on holiday in Craggy Island now. I'm sure you can think of better business on holiday than Craggy
anywhere. Craggy Island is something. The whole time I was watching it, it was like, this is an Irish version of Mad Max.
Yeah,
just
a wasteland of just cement and grey rock, and that's all it was.
It's as bad as it can get without being completely inhospitable.
Yes,
which is shown really out in the picnic area, which is rock.
It's flat rock. I'd really love to know where they actually found that area, because it's not somewhere I recognise. I have been down that part of the country when I was a kid, but
I wouldn't say I don't think I could find it, but I find it in my memory. I haven't been to places like that, but it was a downscale Giant's Causeway. It was the depressing Giant's Causeway.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Well, it was just like, you think if the ground is that flat and rocky, eventually over erosion, or erosion, two of Dougal's favourite subjects, eventually soil would have settled over the rocks, and you would have had grassland.
But it seems almost intentionally like someone's put work into that being an awful place to be. Just the most worst picnic place. And the sign, I don't know if you saw it, at the picnic area had the most interesting things you couldn't do.
I did go down a few of them actually. Did you remember a few of them?
You got the first two. No swearing, no paddling, because that wouldn't have been an option at all.
Well, that wasn't much of an issue, because
felt like if you sent a child into that water with paddling, you wouldn't have gotten it back.
Yeah, it wouldn't have enough paddling as sort of collecting on a riptide halfway to Newfoundland at this point.
And no single ladies, which was adhered to.
That was actually my favourite one.
That tickled me. That reminded me of the Beyonce song. I just wanted her and her dance crew to come up, see the sign, and then just bow their heads in depression and walk away, or be attacked by the man with the whistle.
Well, they should have put a ring on, so.
Yes.
But there's no free climbing either, so even though there's all entire flatland, you're going to climb, and no loitering. So
with the sole idea of a picnic area, you can't do.
You cannot loiter. There was a few other ones, but
they were out of focus. I couldn't get any of them.
We watched it on all four. I was watching the PlayStation.
I watched it on all four at my mum's house, because I no longer have the internet, and my contract expired a week before I said I'd do this, I was like, I'm going to have some real hard times. I watched it twice in my mum's house before she told me to leave.
You still got the work done. Well, that's I appreciate that. Were you watching it on PC or PlayStation?
It was on Sky, just the Sky all four. They've got it on demand.
Oh, right, okay, right. Well, on the PlayStation version, I don't know if it's like this in the Sky version, but they seem to have framed it incorrectly. Like they've got the aspect ratio all wrong. So when the title of the episode came out, the Old Grey Whistle Theft, the O from old and the FT from theft weren't actually fitting on the screen. Oh, and there's a few times when you only see like half the person's face who's to the side of the screen, when I remember clearly being able to see a whole.
I'm sorry, James. I have a much higher standard of viewing than you with my Sky in my
Sky,
mum's house.
Do you not have that?
No, I didn't have that issue. It was
okay. Well, if you're listening, all four, get your PlayStation app sorted.
We did skip across a part, which when I watched, it was another joke that I just completely didn't get. Father Ted phoning the other priests to meet up at the picnic area.
Oh yes, Larry Duff, his third appearance now, and it's his third and fourth episode, so he's really hitting his stride here. So this time he doesn't actually come to any harm for once.
No,
so
somebody else does.
He comes up Larry Duff because, as we know, he's terrific fun. But he's and a few of the lads from St. Column, so I take it that's it's either a parish or a house of priests or whatever. But they get held up at a guarded checkpoint.
Yes.
Because Father Bigley had all those machine guns in his boot. And we found out later in the episode that they were on their way to Iraq. So he was proper,
But that ramble of what Father Bigley had done went from possible arson, because he doesn't declare, he just says because of those fires, to trafficking guns in the Middle East. By the end of this episode, he's built up quite a rap sheet.
But he starts off where he's just a bit of an eccentric priest who maybe has a bit of pyro tendencies to right up to the top 10 the FBI most wanted list.
It's an amazing leap for him, and considering he's in the episode for all of maybe 5 seconds before he comes to possible harm, depending on that guarder's accuracy.
Well, it seems to be, he's very determined to make sure he got the shots away anyway. So
that was a joke that I remember when watching as a kid on VHS, because my mum got them, and it was something that I couldn't talk to about my friends in school. They had no interest in Father Ted. It was something I mentioned maybe twice in school, trying to be one of the cool kids watching something on TV, and I got nothing.
Well, you are a bit younger than most of our guests so far, so just go back to when you were watching Father Ted this year.
I would have watched Father Ted, maybe starting watching Father Ted on VHS, and only just a couple of episodes. I think we got 2 episodes per VHS.
Right.
At the ages of maybe 7 or 8, or around there, I can't really remember.
Was this
in England?
Or was it?
I've no idea.
Is your mum Irish? Is she?
Yeah, she's very Irish.
She was living in London at this point?
Yeah, we were living in London, and when we'd watched them the first few times, I tried to talk about it in school. Nothing. Just that I was a weird kid again. And I remember watching that and going, wow, that's really dramatic for police to be doing. I didn't get any of it.
I mean, in the mid-90s, having a guarded checkpoint, it was the only reason I say it's a guarded checkpoint because it was re-signed saying guarded.
But their uniforms suggested otherwise.
Well, they definitely suggested heavy military, which Ireland doesn't really have a heavy military. But those kind of scenes were not unheard of at all in the mid-90s. I can remember being at army checkpoints and stuff where you'd have similar ones, and you'd see out of the corner of your eye to be a sniper just buried in a hedgerow somewhere. And if you happen to be in the wrong coloured car, they would stop you, they would get you out, and they'd want everyone to sort of sit and hands on the bonnet and stuff until they search everything. My dad's been stopped like that a few times.
It's those parts of history that don't make it over to the mainland at all.
Those
that the civilian sort of lifestyle never makes it over to the mainland. And when I did history in school, I talked to my cousins on almost a monthly basis. And when I was doing history in school and I was telling them about it, it blew their minds.
I can imagine. I mean, my cousins lived over in London, and they were living in Hackney. Hackney is a more ethnic area, I suppose, and so there wouldn't be that many Irish people. There was a sort of tiny sort of pocket of Irish population, but they were saying nobody's heard of any of this stuff. And there is I've spoken to people when I went to uni over there, assuming they were all sort of au fait with at least the level of the issue. They had absolutely no idea. It's
something that they know the IRA, they know the British Army were here and they did bad things, but that's as far as it goes. They don't know the day-to-day life of someone who lived in Ireland during those times. And that joke, when I first saw it, was just I didn't understand. I was like, I think it's funny because it's very extreme, but I didn't know that was what could possibly happen.
No, exactly. I mean, it was just extrapolated again for comic effects and everything. But when I went over to Farnham, that's where I did my foundation. So as soon as I turned 18, I went over there, and there was one other guy who I knew from Oma. I was doing the foundation, he was doing the degree, And every time we were in the union and people were asking him, what's Northern Ireland like? He was a Protestant and everything. We would just sit there and we'd say, oh yeah, we had to dodge bullets on our way to school and everything. And you know, if the tank ran past you had to stop, and if you got run over, it was your fault. And just making up this like absolute war zone. And people were sitting there, and saying stuff like, oh yeah, we were never really allowed to talk to each other because he's Protestant and I was Catholic, and like we had actually already known each other and stuff. So it was just us like ripping the shit out of them. But
I had a really good time once, soon after I moved into Sandy Row with my dad, when they still had the other mural up, you know, this mural now, balaclava and an AK-47, really making you have that warm sense of possible death. Yeah. But I sent that picture to my nan. This is like not that long ago, 6 years.
Right, okay.
6 years ago, not that long ago. Nothing bad was happening at the time, but it was still up, and I sent that picture to my nan, and she was practically ready to pay for a flight for me to come back. Well,
I mean, if you saw some of the murals like around Neil and stuff, and
they are scary, but I like them. It's just like that's a bit of history.
It is. It's an artifact of Belfast's unique history, and there is sort of not a campaign, but there is sort of a movement to paint over them now.
Yeah, and I would say I'm against that because
in principle, I would say I am as well.
I understand that. Yes, it's not a nice path.
It's intimidating.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah, and the whole point of them was to intimidate people. Yeah. But I do feel that we should sort of face up to the fact that this was what it was like, and those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
it's important to remember that they're still there, and Northern Ireland's not like that anymore. It's
exactly. But not after Brexit.
Yeah. Oh no,
we'll not get into that.
We can't.
But we will get into a much more divisive issue in Brexit. Oasis or Blur?
Oh, Oasis. Because Father Damo would be very displeased with me if I said otherwise.
Well, are you old enough to remember the Oasis Blur?
No, I'm not. That was before my time. Oasis had won.
Well, they sort of won the sort of long run, but I think Blur have sort of won the sort of historically. So
yes.
Oasis won sort of the battle of the time. Well, they definitely, and they lost the actual number one battle. Do you know about this, by the way?
No, all I know is that I enjoyed Oasis when I was quite young.
Well, they played great songs and were just all over the radio, and I used to love them as well. Like
I think they won due to exposure. They won me due to exposure.
Yeah. Well, see, and the other thing was that you didn't like them too much. They were horribly overexposed.
Yeah.
Like Mumford & Sons is playing in the background here. Like to me now they're getting overexposed. And I don't particularly like them too much. Like,
definitely, they've still got their appeal, but there are songs. If I hear it, I go, well, I'm going to switch my ears off for a little bit, and hopefully it'll be over by the time I switch them back on.
Yeah. Whereas Oasis, like they genuinely have about 50 to 60 extremely well-known songs that like people my age now would be able to rhyme off without question. Like somebody in the corner with a guitar started playing an album track from Master Plan, their B-sides compilation, people would know it and people would be able to sing along. Like that, the sheer penetrative power of their music is unprecedented.
I feel that their power over music has done them a hindrance, especially I'm spending a lot of time in places that are doing live music. I hosted the Vermilion a couple of nights ago on Friday, actually, and that was fun. But they have every open mic has the rule of no Wonderwall.
It's like that joke in Wayne's World where he's about to play Stairway to Heaven, and the guy just points to the sign on the wall.
And
no stairway, deny.
I believe there's a few other more contemporary bands that are getting that same reputation of you can't play that at an open mic because you're upsetting people. They've heard it way too many times. Exactly, it doesn't matter how well you play it.
Well, it sort of defeats the purpose of going to open mic and then playing cover versions.
Yeah.
But Oasis and Blur, they actually had a chart standoff, so they actually released singles each on the same day, and it became the weekly news. Like every night on News at 10, they were actually doing a rundown as who was closer to the top. Everyone thought Oasis would win because they were vastly more popular, but Blur actually won it with Country House. And the thing was, of the two bands, I think it's two of their worst singles. Like that's what they went head to head with. It wasn't Wonderwall or it wasn't Don't Look Back in Anger, and it wasn't Blur. It wasn't Park Life or anything. It was Country House, which is it's not one you hear at all anymore.
No, it's not the greatest hits at all.
Roll with it, which again, you wouldn't go request roll with it like.
I do like that song quite a bit, but
it's
not their greatest hits. It's not
nowhere near one of the, it's not in the top half of that album. Like it was, that's filler of that album as far as I'm concerned. Like.
Yeah. Well, that would. I think this has happened with quite a few artists. I've heard one of their songs and it's not their greatest song, and then I buy the album or download the album and it's all just a lovely surprise that they're so much better.
On the actual record, like. Well, that's the way it used to be. Now it's like the only decent songs are the singles, and then the rest of the album is
everything. It's garbage.
But obviously, Dougal was more of a Blur fan, but he couldn't possibly admit this because
that wouldn't be cool.
Yeah. And Demo, like again, going back to the mid-90s, like Oasis were so popular in Ireland. They headlined festivals in Ireland. Like their Feile in '95 surely got to be one of the greatest festival lineups of all time. It had Oasis, it had Blur, it had Chemical Brothers, R.E.M., Prodigy. Like you just go all the way down, Elastica, all the way down. It was just hit after hit after hit, and
that sounds like a real treat.
Yeah, and it's like Oasis were at the top of this, and Blur were sort of there as well. But
I envy your age, but I feel in 20 years that I'll be in the same position as you.
Well, I just missed that because I was only about 9 or so at the time, so I couldn't go to these things.
Good. You were a lot younger than I thought you were for a minute. I was like, I knew you were older than me by a measure, but I don't know how old.
Much older. I'm 30 now, so I was about 9 or 10, between 9 and 11 around that time, and so I wasn't able to.
No sneaking.
If I'd been 5 years older, I would have caught the tail end of Nirvana. If I'd been 5 years younger, I would have caught the tail end of, or would have caught the Strokes and all the Libertines and that sort of thing, but I just got caught in the middle between everything and missed it all. But
well, now we have the internet and it's all at our fingertips.
Yeah, it's all on Netflix now.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
So we have a Meet the Maker today. Did you notice where it was?
It would have been no, it wasn't the Sergeant.
F-U-P-O-F-F football.
Yes, the crazy couple, as I have them down.
Yeah, do you have any notes there?
Yes, it's an appearance from Craggy Island's absolute nutcase inhabitants. Yeah. I feel like everyone that lives there by choice is inherently insane, and they have a surface level of sanity which makes them, be able to blend into society, function as a society. And anyone that's sent there against their will, like Father Ted and a lot of the other priests, that is their punishment. To deal with these maniacs that live on the island.
On the surface, the first layer of the onion is taken off and they get to see it.
Their adherence to the rules, but clearly disregard for Father Ted entertain me to no end.
Yeah, it's a weird. There is that sort of person who has a real respect for whatever rules are in place, whatever house rules are there, with just a complete disrespect for the spirit of those rules. So they
have no interest in behaving in a polite social manner, but they'll adhere to the rules that are there. So you do behave in a polite social manner.
Exactly. So as you say, when Father Ted asks why they're speaking like this, where they're not saying fuck, they're saying fup, and they're not saying bastard, they're saying baxters. He asks why they're speaking like this, and he just points to the sign, no swearing. But they were very possessive of their little spot right underneath.
And not very aware of what day of the week it was.
Yes,
because they go there every Sunday and Saturdays occasionally.
And well, I suppose it's their spot; they can do what they like.
Yes.
So that was Arthur Matthews. So now Arthur Matthews is 3-1 up on Graham. But I remember hearing in an interview or whatever, anytime they needed somebody to be really, really shouty, they would get Arthur to do it because nobody could shout down on Arthur. And he does come up.
He comes across so terrifyingly aggressive. I was intimidated by him. I know he's not swearing at me, but I feel like it'd be nicer if he was.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Ted is getting the full brunt of this from both sides. By the way, it's not just the man; it's also the woman.
Yes.
Hit him, Frank! I hit him for you. She fucking man as well. She'll fucking eat you.
But apparently, Arthur Matthews is one of the most civil people you'll ever meet. He's just got this capacity to be really, really aggressive if you need him to shout the head of something.
He's the person you send in first if you feel like a fight might start and you don't want it to.
Yeah.
You send him in and everything will diffuse.
Yeah, and he'll sort the situation out.
I have to say that Mr. Benson on the island has his little house, his little shack, which I assume is his house because he's sleeping in there.
Sleeping there, yeah. It's a very decrepit little bubble he's got for himself. It's barely the size of a prison cell.
Yeah. He'd be lucky to have a prison cell. I think.
It would be a step up. You also have a bed,
and a toilet, which is very worrying. Well, I suppose he does live on the beach.
Yeah, he does right at the sea, so he just goes natural.
I said beach there. That was being very kind to the picnic area.
But you're noticing his wee house.
He's the fact that he lives in there, and when called upon, it behaves in another member of Craggy Island's people that want to live there. Crazy surface level normality. Approaches Father Ted, and the only way I could look at it was Father Ted says it later in the episode to Dougal, but he approaches him like a crab. A forward walking crab.
Sort of stealth,
and they have their Mexican standoff where it's very underwhelming, and Father Ted just has no time for these mad inhabitants of the island. It's him enduring his punishment. He says, he goes through the whole day and just goes, sod it, I'm going home. I've no time for you crazy people.
Well, this is it,
in himself he is a bad person, which is why he's there.
He's getting punished because Len sent him there, of course, but he was settling down just to read his book. And did you see what the book was?
Mel Gibson,
The Life of Mel Gibson.
and Times of Mel Gibson.
Back when Mel Gibson was,
acceptable
character to want to read a book about. It'd actually be a much more interesting book now, I'd say.
Yeah, I feel that you get a lot more. You could read in between the lines. Have you heard Mel Gibson's lovely rants?
I've heard the content of it. I haven't actually heard the rant
itself. It's on the internet. It's freely to listen to him leaving messages for his wife.
I thought you meant when he got arrested. Okay,
no,
right.
There's a couple of recordings of him leaving messages for his wife, and wow, he gets graphic and insane. It's terrifying. You'll never watch Gladiator the same way again. You'll have a lot more fear for what he can do, because he really lets loose. There's a line in it: I bend over backwards and put my balls in a knot for you. That's a sentence that stuck with me, and I heard that about 4 years ago.
True love.
I should say, while James is working his way through his notes that we're whittling through, that we're in the parlour, and we've got a lovely little room in the back. It's called the library, where no reading is going on, and in fact I can't see a single book.
There's not one book here at all.
It's very disappointing. But yes, the people here have been lovely enough to turn off the music and and put on the Big Bang Theory, which is rather strange.
Yeah, the Big Bang Theory is on like a little old sort of TV that looks like it's from the 1950s. I don't actually think it really is.
Something tells me they didn't watch this in the 1950s.
Yeah, they would have had taste back then.
Yeah,
Nice smug 21st century.
I can say I don't like it and not be smug, but why would I?
The Big Bang Theory is very popular. I just don't find it.
That is all you have to say. It is very popular.
It's ridiculous.
That's all I have to say for it.
But I remember when it first came out, people were saying it's finally geeks get on TV and mainstream culture, and then I watched it and it was like, but they're taking the piss out of geeks.
Yeah.
It's actually just the bullying geeks experience at school now transferred to a mainstream.
I went to QCon, which is an event that happens in Belfast once a year in June, and it's a geek fest. It's a lot like a Comic-Con. They have comic stands, games, and that sort of thing. I got my hands on a virtual reality headset for the first time, which was a lot of fun.
Right, very nice.
But they do comedy there every year, and I didn't see it this year, but last year the comedian I won't name him because it's quite. I don't have nice things to say, but he spent a lot of time abusing his audience and saying that none of us had sex or had a girlfriend. And I didn't know if he was aware that we did outnumber him by quite an amount, and sexual frustration can make people violent. But I feel that set was a lot like the Big Bang Theory.
Has he been? Is he in any way successful? Or
oh yes, that's why I don't want to name. I want gigs in the future.
Oh, okay.
My favourite, well, not my favourite, my mum's favourite part, Mrs. Doyle, being there in the middle of the night and having tea ready, and when finally Father Ted does come down and rejects the tea,
yeah.
She stays there and then turns the light out on herself, which is that was the part I went, oh my god, I feel so bad for this woman.
Exactly, she goes way above and beyond. There's three of them on the one of them is a complete drunkard who might get up every so often to have to go to the toilet. Dougal seems to sleep soundly until 11 a.m. every morning, and so does Ted. The two of them.
Something tells me Father Jack wouldn't get up to go to the toilet.
Yeah,
he seems like one of those people that just lets things happen and waits for Mrs. Doyle to come and clean him up.
Yeah, if he even bothers to roll over and go to use the potty or use the bedpan, like piss pot as my granny used to call it. But Dougal is walking in like a crab, as we mentioned before, because he's just got himself an earring.
Yes.
It's not a pierced earring though, I didn't notice that, which it is just one of the
clip-ons.
So
did you ever do something like that in your younger years?
I've never got an earring or anything. Or
I did. I got a stud, and I thought it was the coolest thing.
Right.
And my mum and my dad said that looks stupid as hell. And they didn't say take it out. They just told me it looked stupid. And then other kids reminded me more, and concurred with them. And then I did take it out.
But see, that's what you have to do. You have to go past that. You have to stick by your convictions, and then say and put another earring, double down the other ear. No, I've never had any I've never had any inclination to get piercings. I have wanted to get tattoos, just never really got around to it. Do you know those things? Not the earrings, but the tunnels that people get. Those just
the stretchers.
Yeah, they freak the fuck out of me.
I think some of them are very colourful and they look like they've got a lot going on in them, and I really like those. But some of them are just white rings, just solely there to stretch the ear and make a hole. Those don't make me feel.
But that hole will never close, will it?
No.
So when they're 90, they'll still have that. They'll still have to wear those little rings.
Yeah, that's a good point. In about 40 years' time, the generation that have got these stretchers and they've become really big, old people are going to look even more terrifying.
They're just going to have this wrinkly hole, just won't fit in. Like I remember, I was playing rugby and one of the guys had it, and his was actually quite big. It was about an inch in diameter. So I had to take it out for the rules. You weren't allowed to wear any jewellery. So I just saw this
that could.
Yeah, it was just horrible. And then somebody could just put their finger and just rip it down, and that's you fucked then. See, obviously that's not what it proves either. No. So, I mean, and to what end? Like, it's okay. It's aesthetically interesting for 5 minutes, but then
it is a big leap. And to the people that like them, good on you, because you're willing to hurt yourself for your fashion. I'm well believe you'll hurt me for your fashion, so good on you, and I'm glad you like it.
I mean, if people get them, usually aren't at all aggressive. Really.
No,
it is a very aggressive looking thing when you see somebody with piercings upon piercings.
Yeah,
I have seen people with 50 across their eyebrow and then 10 down their cheeks.
I have to say, when you see someone with those piercings and they do have them all in, sometimes I do just go, that looks really good, but then I think you do have to take those out. It's not practical in life. Yeah. I feel it looks really good right now, but I know I couldn't live with that maintenance.
Yeah.
I couldn't live with having to deal with that. I can barely shave.
Like they'd have to stand at the security desk for 20 minutes just taking those piercings out, just go through the metal detector and then put them back in again the other side.
I feel that would be. I feel like I should get piercings now because I always have an awful time in airports. I've never been through one without being searched.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if it's bad luck or anything. It's just I never have a good time in an airport. I'll be searched and I'll be holding up the plane sometimes, and that's the worst feeling.
Oh yeah.
Just because they've searched me and then extensively searched me, and then I'm the last one on the plane.
Oh shit.
And they all look at me going, "You're the reason this is." No, it's not me. But you can't say that to a plane full of people. I'm sorry, it's not my fault.
I've held up a few pins myself, but
intentionally or.
Well, no,
in a terrorist capacity.
No, not with
James, I didn't know you that well.
Well, I went to Derry Airport one time, and I left Oma at like 6. Well, I left Oma on the 6 o'clock bus. It was the first bus in the morning to go to Derry. I'm thinking, fuck, I've got loads of time here. I'll get to Derry at 7:30, and my plane's not till 9:30 or something. So I'll just get the quick bus to the airport, and I'll have an hour and a half at the airport to get through security and everything. The bus between Derry City and Derry Airport was a tiny little Ulster bus, that was just going through the countryside, picking up people on their way to school. So that little, 8-mile journey took about 45 minutes. And as soon as I got to the airport, the gate had already closed, or the security had already closed. So I had to ask the plane to hold up to get me through everything.
So when you got to that plane, you could go, "It's not my fault. Blame the bus service and children."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bloody school children, they're good for anything. The girl actually said, well, after the pilot told her to train, she was right, next time just get a taxi. And I was ready to fly off hand. I was like, "What am I getting a taxi for? Why should I have the gospel?" I thought, no, thank you very much. And just ran to the plane.
It is awful when you find yourself in a situation where you've got to deal with someone who's just doing their job, whether it be customer service, and you've had an ordeal getting to that point, and you're ready to just blow. And don't do it. It's not their fault, but you want to.
Just for your own peace of mind. Yeah. But Dougal complains that he's not being treated like an adult anymore. Because he is nearly 26,
Yes. Again, it's taking the... Sorry, what was it? It's not a junior priest. What is the
younger? Curate. Yeah.
They are just the children.
It's just that they're junior in their sort of ministry.
They've only doing it for so long.
Well, exactly. See, Dougal and Damo will probably only be out of the seminary a few years, because it's a 7-year training thing in the seminary where you're sort of isolated for 7 years and you go through all the training, and then you're sort of released out to the populace.
I'm learning about the Catholic Church. That's fantastic. I feel like I should have done more before I came on to talk about Father Ted, but
to be honest, Father Ted doesn't really go into the Catholic.
They use it to abuse once in a while, but they don't.
But like I said last week, like they don't just fall on just go on a rant about how stupid it all is and how hypocritical it all is. They just mention it, and so that little mention will just trigger people to start thinking about that sort of stuff. So, like, page 1 of How to Be a Catholic is
right and wrong. Dougal trying to deal with the concept of right and wrong. That was an interesting moment.
Yeah. 7 years of being in the seminary and he still couldn't come up with one sin.
It feels definitely like Dougal is just there because he bimbled into, I don't know how you become a priest and into the seminary, but he just bimbled in and put his name down. Didn't really know what he was doing. Just came along for the ride and has been enjoying it for the.
It could not be a better way for Dougal to live his life, really, because there's no other profession where he'd be sort of carried along in that sort of way, like where he'd just be. Like the seminary would have room and board and everything, and as soon as he becomes a priest, he has a room and board and everything, so he doesn't actually have to deal with, mortgages.
What's the age limit on this seminary thing? Because it sounds quite good. My rent's really high.
I don't know. Actually, I've never looked into it. To be honest, I'd say you'd have to be 18, but I do not know.
Okay, but still, Dougal trying to deal with the concept of right and wrong. Almost, it looks like it does him physical harm.
Yeah, exhausted to the point where he nearly has a panic attack.
And Father Ted trying to show him the moral high ground when he believes he's done something. He hasn't stolen the whistle, but he's found it in Dougal's jacket. So he's trying to take the moral high ground, which Dougal really quickly cuts him down from by quickly reminding him why he is on Craggy Island. That money was resting in my account. It was resting a very long time.
Yeah.
Good rest.
Practically comatose at that point. The whistle has been stolen, as we know, and it's by an unknown assailant. But we do have a witness who says, "Hello, Father," so we know it's a priest. That scene was very... it was very well stylized, and it looked like a horror film. Like clearly taken.
You mentioned that in your previous episode. It would be 2 episodes back now. That was a horror movie. It reminded me a lot of Evil Dead.
Evil Dead was exactly the one I was about to bring up. It's that's the camera moving like that.
Yes.
It's a Sam Raimi trademark. Him and Joel and even Ethan Coen all came up with that when they were making the Evil Dead films, and then the Coen brothers then used it in some of their films where they had a camera. Basically what they did was affix the camera to a plank and just all carried along running. And nobody had ever thought to do this before, but it gives it a really unsettling...
it's very jarring the way... You feel like you're looking through the eyes of something that's alive.
Yes, exactly, and something that's on prey, something that's on the prowl, like sort of thing. Whereas before you had cameras on wheels, so it'd all be very static and very steady. This just gives it such a as I say, unsettling.
Absolutely, and Evil Dead being one of my favourite movies of all time. It was jarring and enjoyable to watch in such a comedy format.
Exactly, you can take it out of context and give it a whole new meaning with doing this. But I love when the assailant, he grabs a whistle and just gives them a fucking quick 2 fingers off. So clearly, as we know, spoiler alert, it was Damo that stole the whistle. Clearly they've been on that picnic area as well, and had to ruin with Mr. Benson and his gym outfits and his ultra active megaphone.
He's very much into his work, and he goes into how important that whistle is to him when he comes by Father Ted's.
Well, again, it goes back into the history of our two great nations.
Something tells me you might have intentionally picked an English version for this episode.
I did. This is
it's a happy coincidence.
Because I knew I was going to be in London last week, so I wasn't going to have you for that one. And then next week I'm going to have Eurovision. I'll do somebody specifically in mind for that. Marty, who is a massive Eurovision fan, so I want him to be on that episode. So it's just the fact that you were available this week. It just happened to work.
Everything nicely fits in.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes.
But the English had Mr. Benson's grandfather and ready to execute him, but all the bullets hit off the whistle.
Yep.
And saved his life.
It was a miracle.
Until they just reloaded and shot him again.
It's nice hearing, because you do hear those tales of, especially from like World War II, and I assume troubles as well, where people were saved by something in their pocket or just a really unlikely thing to happen, and then just slamming it with a lot of reality that they would just reload.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, that was the sort of Father Ted humour of like setting up the sort of cliche sort of idea, and then just completely pulling the rub away from you, and just like, no, just shut him again. And we have another appearance by John and Mary. So we haven't actually seen them since the 4th episode of the first series. So that it's been a while since we saw them. And Father Ted walks in where Mary is washing John's hair in a mop bucket.
Some extreme grooming, some might say.
Yes. There must be some extra special chemicals in the domestos or something that's really getting the shine through his hair and everything.
And it feels like they get a lot of their I wouldn't say pent up aggression, because it seems to be quite vocal out while they're washing. And another member of Craggy Island's mental, but as soon as Father Ted walks in, they put on this very thin level of sanity until the shotguns comes out, obviously. And I feel like the whistle being stolen and the way the whole island reacts to it, and they do go about an effort of making sure that that the island's up in arms and it's insane. Reminds me of a lot when I used to live in Antrim, and me and my friend, who is also called Marty, used to spend quite a lot of time, quite a few weekends just letting the cows out because we were bored and we were useless. Then opening the gates and seeing the cows walk down. I do, because the locals would go absolutely ape. It felt a lot like they thought that terrorism was coming next because the cows had gotten loosed. Some people do really overreact to the smallest of things when you do live in a very small town.
Yes, well, definitely. We'll just say in their defence, though, that cattle rustling was one of the fundraising tactics of the...
I feel like you might call the police on me after this is over. This is the man that was letting those cows...
Finally! But yeah, the island does get very worried, and they start arming themselves to the teeth. So John and Mary get themselves an armed shotgun. We have an appearance as well, I've forgotten her name, the little old lady who went to see...
I've got her down as the almost normal lady outside the shop.
Yes, well, she was the one who went to see the Passion of St. Tibulus. She was declaring that her friend's husband's penis was a bit rounder at the top than...
yes.
So she's back again, but she's going to lock herself away because she's afraid of the crack cocaine epidemic is about to befall in. And
the whores and...
the pimps have to keep the crack...
The drive-bys.
Yeah.
It's going to get very Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, Boys in the Hood. Now, I was going to bring that up, actually. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I've heard it. Big fan of MWA. I'm glad it wasn't around when they were around because, things weren't all that cool for black people back then. I'm glad I get to enjoy their legacy.
Well, exactly. I mean, I was sort of a bit before my time as well, and obviously I don't, I'm white and everything. I don't have the same sort of cultural touchstones or everything, but those films are amazing. Like, I love Spike Lee and everything, and but Boys in the Hood, like, it's a seminal film, and
it's amazing how I feel that just what they are is a gangster rap group. managed to make such a big difference in a movement when it's something they no need to do. They don't need to do. They didn't need to do that and make such a big scene and get the whole world interested, because that can be dropped into an Irish sitcom and be understood.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like these kids from like the streets of Compton, like absolutely no hopers as far as society had already declared them, like, and they were able to, you know, bring this all to the world. Especially John Singleton, I think, is the director of The Boys in the Hood, and he's still active and he's still making some great films. You know, that's such a huge. I think he was the youngest person ever been nominated for Best Director for that as well.
How old was he when he?
I think he was 25. I think it might have been a matter of weeks younger than Orson Welles when he got nominated for Citizen Kane, but neither of them won. But it showed how monumental that would have been at that time. Like,
and it having, I think, when you mix talent with passion and good motivations, you can get something like a movie like that or a group like that.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose
make a difference.
Riding off the back of Public Enemy had actually shone a light on all this.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to see them last year, actually.
Okay, that's right. I was chatting about that. Really wanted to go to that game.
Yeah.
Never actually went to it. But anyway, come back to Ted comes back, disgusted that the local newspaper has gone a massive tirade with a special pull-out supplement on whistles. So they're really on the scene here. Like the Craggy Island Examiner, they've got their roving reporters and
they don't let anything slip by them. Exactly. Literally anything. I think that it's shown that so little happens there, especially when the sergeant does come round and says it's not much crime.
Yes, that's right.
Very little to do. I think he's a lot like Father Ted in the way that he's not I feel like he's done something wrong when he was a police somewhere else, a sergeant somewhere else, and this is a punishment for him to go somewhere where there's no crime.
Yeah, I mean, if you are like really determined, like if you go join the police force, determination of making the world a better place and to try and stop crime and hopefully make someone's life a little bit better, to be stationed in a place like that would be soul destroying, really, wouldn't it? I mean, there are obviously police people or police officers who just want to just lie back and have to deal with somebody broke my window, somebody TP'd my house,
car in date, tax in date.
Exactly. But if you do have a natural feeling or a calling that you want to make the world a better place, like that would be absolutely.
And it does seem like a little bit of torture for him, and when the whistle does get stolen and the spree begins, or as he's seeing it, the spree begins, he takes measures.
He clearly gets a budget upgrade because he just hovers in a helicopter for no reason, just to say hello. And I don't think he need to go that high in that helicopter.
I thought was he not taking off? I just had it in my head that he'd gone to get something from the shop in a helicopter.
It was on his way. Now he got his milk. All right,
he was just taking advantage of this one crime that had happened, and he'd somehow gotten a grant for a helicopter.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Well, I wonder who he answers to. He's probably the chief of the constituency, like. So. But if anything, the island's going a bit mad here. The one thing they need is a calming influence of their parish priest. So what's Ted doing? He should be putting all this in perspective, not just,
Ted believes they're blowing it all out of proportion,
but he needs to tell them that.
Well, when they're waving a shotgun in your face, he really you would struggle. But eventually, after having his talk with Dougal, he's greeted by Mr. Benson and the sergeant, and he's put in the precarious position of trying to explain that he's just a whistle for a very brief time before Dougal arrives back. And Ted has such a little. I do think he's a bad person. He does not care for the people of Craggy Island.
Well, I think it's probably the Ned Flanders sort of Reverend Lovejoy situation at that point, where he's just got, oh god, not another one like.
I don't think he's that much of a bad person, because I don't know many that could put up with that kind of behaviour from a whole island and and try and help them and calm them. But when they do come in, they do have a brief discussion with Ted about, they don't suspect him at this point, but they would suspect, I believe they suspect Dougal until the way he's sent away.
Who suspects Dougal?
Mr. Benson and Sergeant.
Well, they know it's a priest, and they're asking to have any confessions. So.
I mean,
it's all sort of narrowed down to 3 potential suspects in their eyes, because they wouldn't really know that.
I wouldn't
Father
say
Damo was
3
Frosty.
because it seems like Craggy Island is absolutely chock full of priests.
Well, they all seem to head out there, yeah, for just a wee bit of a knees up, like.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's
easy.
probably the one place they can get away with it. Like if you're supposed to be paragons of virtue
Yeah.
in your little town, you can't really go on the lash or anything. Whereas if you watch at Craggy Island,
Is it the priests Amsterdam?
probably yeah. We know from the Sergeant's previous experience that a lot of rock stars and stuff come out there for their peace. So it's a bit of a resort or a
Yes. Or more of an unmonitored wasteland.
Yeah.
Where you can get away with it because there's no one wants to be.
Exactly. There'll be no administrators or people holding people to account.
Mr. Benson has struggled through this ordeal, is now wheelchair bound.
But the shock has affected him particularly badly because he's lost. Not only has he lost the feeling in one of his legs, not even both of them, but he forgets which one it is.
Yeah, he's lost his memory and feeling in a leg, which he quickly reminds himself which.
Yes, by taking the sergeant's baton and summarily he's hitting himself in the wrong leg with it.
And then Sergeant does show that Mr. Benson isn't lying and gives him a good old whack in the other leg, which is those are the moments I remember as a kid just thinking that is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It is so crazy, like it's so off the wall, and like it genuinely isn't something you would have seen in other sitcoms at the time. Like not something as crazy as like Red Dwarf or anything. Like it was something you only really see in Ted.
I wanted to go over just Father Jack a little bit because we
have sort of
overlooked him in this episode, and I think this episode's really good for him because it shows how funny he can be, and the people that have written the work for him to the scenarios he's in, without moving a single muscle.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
All it requires is a camera pan and a change of props, and Jack is now the funniest person on the screen.
Yeah. Well, it starts off when Ted's trying to sneakily put his bottles of wine into the basket. Just one little tap with his bottles, and he's able to identify
Jameson's.
And he gets the picnic table and he puts his bottles out and goes pick up his cheese and goes back to the bottles. They're empty.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing to do.
Yes, exactly.
And Jack's very happy in the background after somehow getting 2 bottles of Jameson's or Jacob's Creek.
Yeah. Two very different drinks. Well, that'll have to go in the drinks cabinet actually. Jacob's Creek.
Jacob's Creek. Oh yes, you're running the tally.
Yeah.
How extensive is that at this point?
Well, it's not too full so far because I will have to go back to the first couple of episodes just to see if I fill up a few things. But what we've got so far is Vicks nasal spray, Jack Daniels, the toilet stash, the hidden tube of the hidden straws that he's got in his jacket. We don't know what that was. The Castrol GTX, the window lean, and the powers from now Jacob's Creek.
Now, if that wouldn't kill you, I would say maybe for your finale you should get yourself a drinks cabinet of that stuff and drink that. But that would most certainly kill you.
They were playing Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
Dougal and Damo.
A game I haven't played in quite some time.
I've never really got into it, but it's a massive cult game.
It would have been really main. It would have been very main. The game back then. It would have been before my time, but it would have been the game to play in an arcade.
Yeah, well, it was. Sorry, I misspoke there. It's a cult game now.
Yeah.
But back then it would have been like. See, I was always in Mortal Kombat side of things.
Yes.
But Street Fighter 2 was massively bigger than that.
I was very well parented, so I wasn't allowed Mortal Kombat unless I was at my cousin's, where I could play it as much as I liked.
Yeah, we didn't actually go through Father Damo very much. When they're playing their Street Fighter, Frosty calls. Father Damo lives by his own rules, though.
I feel this is something I may have said, not quite in those words, probably not swearing, but while at a friend's house.
Yeah.
When I was, being a twat.
Boss of me.
It's cringeworthily funny because you may have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
That feels like a really, really
similar
memory. But again, he gets the arrogant child in him perfectly, and Father Ted doesn't know what to do because that's an adult.
Yes, but Ted's sort of taken aback by his abrasiveness, and you do get that sometimes with new teachers and stuff when they actually deal with a troublesome child.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, I'll just do what the child says. Just filter horrible language. And clearly Frosty's on the other side of the phone, going, just tell him to freaking get over here. But Ted finds a whistle in Dougal's jacket inside a cigarette case. Now it is quite pointed that Ted initially is more disappointed that he thinks Dougal's smoking.
But Father Ted does smoke.
He does smoke, but do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That's the rules. But yeah, and then when he sees the whistle, I mean, you can sort of imagine Ted's conclusion. Is
Yeah.
oh, okay, this
It's
Dougal's
brilliant.
fucking letting down his path
And,
here.
yeah.
I better get him back on track.
Dougal's obviously off the rails already.
Yeah.
Having very strange dreams about Carol Vorderman.
Yes, yeah. Aren't I? Yes. I'm not Richard Whiteley.
Put your clothes back on, Carol.
Yeah.
Concentrate.
Well, see, back then, Carol Vorderman wasn't considered a sex symbol as much as she was, 10 years later.
Really?
Yeah, she was just sort of, she was just a girl on TV who took the numbers up and just did the numbers and stuff.
Father Ted comes to the conclusion Damo's taken him off the nice path. He's had Dougal on and he's stolen the whistle. Probably due to Father Ted's comment when he comes back from his picnicking.
Yeah.
I wish someone would steal that guy's whistle, or someone should take it from him.
And he was about to say, I think he was about to say, I wish someone would take that whistle and shove it up his arse.
Yes.
But when somebody, see, be careful what you wish for, because when somebody actually did do that, the whole time went into
Proper address it.
yeah. But just as he's about to confront Dougal, he takes the whistle out and just said, he's about to ask, do you know where this came from? And then you hear what Dougal said. But before he does that, they're interrupted by the sergeant and by Mr. Benson. So he sends Dougal out on the most
Bizarre.
the most bizarre errand he could possibly come up with, which was get the shears.
If I came into somebody's house and there was two people there and one said go get the shears, I'd be extremely nervous about it. You're indoors, those are only a weapon indoors.
There's not too many hedgerows around here that he's clipping, is there? But to be fair to Dougal, he gets them very quickly.
Yeah, he's very efficient.
Like, where have they been stored? We know it's a massive house and they have lots of spare rooms.
Yeah,
one room entirely dedicated to toys and board games, as we discussed. But and now a console as well. Which
games console, they're coming into the future.
Which console do you reckon it was, by the way? Because it had joysticks.
I didn't recognise it at all by the controllers because they were translucent controllers. It was either like a special edition or something, or a knockoff of something.
I think it may have been an oversight of the props department because clearly they were playing Street Fighter 2, which was Mega Drive, I think.
That would have been a proper controller.
Yeah,
and I think it was like just those knockoff. You can play 3 games. You can play 3 games on it when you plug it into your TV. Sort of
it's
thing.
already preloaded the games on it. It might have been something like that. But Brendan is now a major video games ambassador almost, hence the IT crowd and all that sort of accurate sort of cultural fandom and stuff. I think that may have been an oversight on the part of them. But the other thing was clearly the two actors never
had ever played a game
never
before.
held a video game controller in their lives before because Damo was just sitting there.
They've got a proper claw thing going on with it. Their fingers are contorted all around the controllers.
But we can forgive them. I think we're trying to pick holes here. We're trying very hard.
I feel like the prop department aren't going to write back to us if we write to them now.
We have actually given them a full full appraisal last week.
Is it an appraisal or a berating?
No, it's a positive appraisal. And I mean, as I said, I was mentioning before, like the props and direction choices are always pretty much spot on. Like even like the little quiff that Damo has with the wee sort of patch of white.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if necessarily they were going for this, but it did remind me of Boyzone, one of the members, Shane Lynch.
Yes,
that sort of bad boy image.
The way the way his jacket is slightly too big for him.
Yes, exactly.
He's got it all down. He's got every part of that stereotype or that character down from the props. His jacket's slightly too big. He's not got his shirt tucked in. It's not ironed. He's a scruffy no-gooder.
Exactly. And
so they've come in. Dougal's gone to get the shears. He's returned briefly, quite quickly.
Well, the first thing I want to ask is why did Ted instinctively lie when they came in?
Because I think
lying.
Ted has. I was thinking about this on the way down. I don't know if Ted was wanting to protect Dougal, or he knew it was in his pocket, and that there's no way he could make it look like it wasn't him and blaming Dougal would just make him. So I wasn't sure if he was trying to be a good person, protect Dougal, or just trying to protect himself because there's no way to explain it out of your own pocket.
Well, all they had to say, I mean, this goes back to the light hole thing that sitcoms do, and again, they sort of go against the sitcom trope here, but I mean, all he had to say was, I was just getting to the bottom of that, and I'm just about to ask Dougal, can you give us 5 minutes, and I'm just going to reach out with Dougal here and we'll figure out what happened.
Yeah.
Instead, his instinct is to lie.
Just
get Dougal out of the way, and then come up with this really, really convoluted story when Dougal says, "Oh, you've got the whistle."
I was very interested to hear the end of that story.
Yeah, exactly.
Going,
Only 5 weeks ago, this little boy who had dreams of
this whole
training a
family,
horse to the Grand National.
this whole family were killed by trees.
Yeah, that's right. The tree fell on them or something. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, exactly. I wonder where he was going to take that, because surely, he will eventually run into somebody who's got a ridiculous knowledge of Grand National winners. Which horse was it then, Ted?
I don't think that was the biggest hole in that story.
Yeah. So yeah, he goes off and comes up with this massive confident story. All the while, Dougal, Father Frost, and Father Damo have already got to the bottom of the situation.
Yeah.
But Father Ted's instinct that is just rubbed off on Dougal. Father Damo tried to pin the blame on Dougal. Dougal goes, "Oh well, it was my fault for stealing it," but it wasn't. So it's just instinctive lying.
Yeah. Father Ted is really the bad influence on him. Father
Exactly.
Damo is.
Damo's just showing him a different way,
Yeah.
a different path not taken, but Ted doesn't. Frosty's investigation is clearly most successful in Ted's.
Yes.
He actually got to the bottom of it very quickly.
Very quickly, just grab the ear and all the truth will spill out.
Yeah, truth shall set you free.
It'd be an interesting way to do confessions. Just grabbing the ear and telling me actually what happened.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't resting your account, was it, Ted? Was it? Twist a bit harder.
Dougal does try and bail him out of it while he's telling the convoluted story as well. Like, no, Ted, and just repeated shut-ups.
Yeah, he does. He keeps trying to chime in and just say, "Ted, we've got to the bottom of this." But Ted, couldn't be quiet, Dougal. I'm in a roll here. Be quiet before I lose my train of thought. So if you had just listened to Dougal in the first place, you would have been fine. But, yeah.
My biggest highlight from the end is it is the last words said in the episode. What Dougal learns.
Yes. Did you learn anything today, Dougal?
Not a thing.
So, and just one other thing I did want to bring up from the picnickers. They called Ted, fuck off, you bloody predator-phile.
Predaphile, yes.
So they were...
That almost sounds worse than pedophile.
Well, yeah, exactly. But they were addressing, again, what was becoming an underlying sort of truth that was bubbling to the surface.
I think it was a lot more effective that they did just do it in those jabs. And
yes, exactly.
They didn't do a whole episode on it because that might have...
It would have been too on the nose.
Yeah.
And again, it's hard to laugh if...
Yeah,
the
if,
subject is something
child abuse.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, I mean, like, I don't remember it myself, but clearly this was all starting to bubble through the surface. Yeah. But still, the Bishop of Galway, whose only crime was having a baby with consenting adults, he was the one ostracised from church. He was the one kicked out of the Catholic church, whereas the rest of them were just moved from parish to parish and hidden away somewhere.
Certainly in any tight-knit circle or group of people, once you are so tightly knit and so widespread, it literally in any group, company or anything, you will believe you can get away with things that you wouldn't think otherwise, and the worst of the worst will go to that group because they think they can go to.
Well, exactly, yeah, and if you have that predatory instinct, you will look for the place where your predatory instinct can be sort of
safe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll wrap it up actually, but IMDb give us an 8.2 out of 10, so it is actually one of the higher rated episodes. And as I said before, it's definitely one of my top 5. Well, top 5 contender. It may actually be quite high in the top 5.
Surprisingly enjoyed it. It was because it was an episode I haven't seen in so long. It's not one I've seen on the telly.
Yeah,
repeatedly.
Somebody did mention that before, that the same 3 or 4 episodes seem to be repeated ad nauseum on more on Sunday nights. You think they do have 24 episodes?
Yeah.
You think they would try and mix it up a bit?
But I suppose they'll just adhere to demand.
Well, I mean, if you tune in the Sunday night, you're just about to go to bed before your Monday morning. And
if you tune into Father Ted, you're not looking for a specific episode. There's no episode you turn it off.
Yeah, true. But if you've seen the same one for the last 2 weeks in a row, you're not going to watch it again.
But it is one that has been sheltered and has so many fantastic moments for so many characters. From Mrs. Doyle remaining downstairs forever, and Father Jack's amazing abilities to steal booze and tell what it is.
Yes, exactly. The 2 picnickers, the Mr. Benson himself, the sergeant.
I suppose we should finish it the same way they finished that episode. Did you learn anything from this?
No. I have learned I probably shouldn't come to a crowded pub to do a podcast though. If all these noises come through, I don't actually know if they're bleeding through.
I don't. I'll be interested to see because it only picked up maybe halfway through, but it was really quiet until maybe about 45-minute mark.
But we'll wrap it up there, and I just say that another fantastic episode, and thank you very much for coming all the way down to the Porter for us.
No problem.
All the way from Lisbon. And
the Vermilion in Lisbon will be having music nights hosted by myself in the coming months. I didn't mention it at the beginning because there's no confirmed date, and again the Courts Falls. Please support us on Facebook if you can't make it down to Lisbon. It's the last Friday of every month, and we'll always have some good acts.
Thanks very much for listening, and bless you.